Before we begin, I want to name what this episode is really about. This is not a story about climbing a mountain. It's about who we become under pressure. When the body is tired, the mind starts bargaining, and the strategies that usually work no longer do. And as you listen, I invite you not to think about Kilimanjaro, but to think about your own climb. The one that's stretching you right now, the one that is quietly shaping your identity. Okay, hi. So today I am going to talk about something that I haven't yet talked about on this podcast. It's my climb and trip to Kilimanjaro and my climb up the mountain, reaching the summit. And I've written a book about it. I've given talks about it, but I haven't actually shared the journey on this podcast. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to actually just go through the process a little bit and share the story a little bit differently and really go into the internal journey, which is really at the end of the whole experience, is what I experienced so profoundly. I didn't expect that before I left. I thought there might be something, but I didn't go with this expectation that I'd have a big, internal shift, which I did. And I thought maybe let's recap a little bit of that story and share it with you today. And I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback. And of course, I have got the book that I've written, Courage to Lead, Leadership Lessons from Kilimanjaro, which really outlines my story in short chapters with the leadership lessons and some questions for you to reflect on and think of in your own journey of life and leadership. Because I say that even if we're not climbing Kilimanjaro specifically, we are all climbing a certain mountain at different points of our life. And the lessons and the learnings and the experience is very similar, whether it's a metaphorical mountain or a real mountain like my Kilimanjaro. So let's just start a little bit with, where did it all begin? It's not something that I had on my bucket list or thought about, because I have to say that, some of you who know me or have listened to me, I'm not, what's the word? I'm not naturally sporty, genetically sporty. I struggle with, being consistent with my with my exercise routines and sporting elements. And it's always been a little bit of a struggle for me. So to take on a physical challenge like climbing Kilimanjaro was not ever anything that I thought is even possible, until I had a meeting with a client who came in for coaching. And he set some goals, and then he said, and you know what, I have this dream, kind of mentioned it as a by the way thing. I have this dream to climb Kilimanjaro. And I said to him, climb Kilimanjaro, really? What's that about? Don't you have to be a super trained mountain climber with mountain climbing skills to take on such a goal? And he said, no, actually, Kilimanjaro is known as every man's Everest. And that means that you don't have to have specialized gear, and you need to have the right equipment, but you don't need specialized gear or specialized skills. You don't need oxygen. It's something you can do if you're reasonably fit. And that's a challenge that for him was something like a bucket list goal. And we did add it to our goal list to kind of work on and not forget about it. And that sparked something in me. It planted the seed for me to think about, wow, okay, I'm a person who loves challenges. If it's doable, why don't I do it? Even though I find it so difficult to take on really challenging physical experiences. So that's seed planted. I think it was about a year later where I was consulting as part of my just volunteer work. I was consulting to a nonprofit organization on their strategy, a fundraising approach, and what they could do to really elevate their brand and fundraising opportunities. And then I said, well, I don't know where it came out of, but I kind of just said, I've got a really wacky idea. How about a trip to Kilimanjaro? I guess the seed had been planted and been germinating in my head, and it came out at that moment. And the head of that division was a woman who I didn't know before and is a friend of mine to this day. And she said, wow, I love that idea. The division of this nonprofit that we were really creating a strategy for was the Women Empowerment Division for women from underprivileged circumstances, and really trying to give them education and skills to be able to make a living and support their families. And she said, why don't we make it a women's trip up Kilimanjaro. And I said, well, if that's what you're doing, I'm in. I'm joining this group. And that's where it all began. It was kind of a spontaneous idea. I didn't even take time to think about it, but I think the pre-work had been done in my head. And when that idea started to take root, I was, okay, I'm in. Not too much thinking, not too much analyzing pros and cons. And I just dived in 2 feet and went for it. And that was the beginning of the story. And over the next few months, when we were putting together our group and getting ready, the preparation was a really, really big part of the whole experience, which is not something that I even had any idea of what was required when I said that, yes, I'm joining this group. And I have to say a few things. First of all, I'm not sporty. The way that I dress is really professional. I love elegant clothes. I love my heels. I love home luxury and comforts. If I go traveling, I do love to stay at beautiful hotels that are going to make me feel like I'm having, what's the word, like being taken care of, that I'm spoiling myself in a certain way, that's a real treat. So this whole idea of camping, I've never done it before, and really, really not my idea of fun. And really for me, it was like speaking a whole new language, because in the preparation, I needed to get fit. So really had to up my game on the whole exercise and sport situation. I needed to get equipment, understand this new language of climbing and hiking, which I really, really didn't know until that point. So it was new shops, new equipment that I really didn't even know existed. This was the first time I put on hiking boots. And I remember thinking, what are these boots? They are so heavy in themselves. So the first time I bought hiking boots, all these different kinds of fleeces and underclothes to keep you warm, thermals and that. Really, really brand new language for me. I do remember, and I write about this in the book, how my first experience in the shop was like a deer in headlights. I went into the shop. The guy took me around, the shop assistant, and he explained everything, was very patient, told me what I need. I came in with my list. And at the end of that, I felt so overwhelmed that I just left the shop. I knew I had to go home, process all of this, and then come back and buy another time, because I just couldn't take it all in one go. I needed some time to breathe in between. And I guess that's what it's like with any new experience. It's something that is, I get you creating new pathways in your brain. So you need to give them time to settle so that you can really get into it and allow your brain and body time to adjust to this new definition of yourself. And I think this is a theme that's going to come through this whole story and this whole episode, is that it's a new definition of identity that I experienced on this trip. And that's why it was really such a powerful experience for me. I think that it started off with wanting to take a challenge that I thought was a significant physical challenge, combined with the idea of going into nature, which I absolutely love, unspoiled nature, really as is, not touched by humans at this point, no hotels and roads and electricity and all those good things that we enjoy in our day-to-day life. And then I think going with a team of women and that whole camaraderie, together with raising money for an organization that I really believed in. So all of that was my logical reasons for going. I think that what I really got out of it at the end, all of those areas or goals or reasons were true and valid. But what I really got was a shift in identity, in how I see myself, what I know that I'm capable of doing. And I think that is a theme that is going to come through, because whenever we face a challenge in life, I think an important question is, what are we going to do to get through the challenge? And together with that, and just as important, is the question, who do I need to be in order to really face this challenge and get through it? And that's the interesting question to me. So just a little bit of information, perhaps. Kilimanjaro sits at 5,895 meters above sea level. That's almost 6 kilometers. And you don't need oxygen all the way, but the oxygen levels are very, very low and limited as you climb higher and higher. And you never know who and how you're going to react to high altitude. And there are all sorts of symptoms and things that can happen. You don't know what your tolerance for high altitude is, and it's only something you can discover once you start climbing and reaching those altitudes. So at that level of altitude and the level of preparation, we also that's where I started running. So I'd never run before. I started running very slowly to just get myself fit for the experience. I remember also running, and I would say more like walking up hills in the area where I lived, just to get that climbing sensation. And that's where my running journey began. Since then, I have run a half marathon, which has also been a wonderful goal that I feel very proud of achieving. And on a physical level, there was the training, there was the equipment. We had a whole team of people to help us and support us through this journey, which is amazing. 60 porters, which included the cooks and the people who set up camp and the people who would organize the washing for us. The toilet carrier, we had a guy who would carry a toilet. We had a chemical toilet with us up there. Yes, all very scary things, as I said, that I'd never met before. Sleeping in a tent, no shower bathing facilities, no toilet facilities, sleeping on a tiny little mattress out in the open air. Food was very different, also losing my appetite and not really wanting to eat, but needing to eat in order to preserve my energy. And at the end of it all, what you really need to bring with yourself is a really, really good attitude. Because I think what makes people able to do this climb is what's going on inside your head. The preparation, the physical stuff, the external stuff is really important. But what's going to get you through right to the top, besides for, I guess, any complications with altitude, which means that you have to stop your trip at that moment and go down. But given that you can manage the altitude, the next thing you need is, I would say, just a good attitude. What are you saying to yourself in your head? What are the thoughts that are carrying you? What is the attitude that you're going with? And I have to say that was challenging as well. It wasn't so simple every day on that mountain, because every day I was asking myself, what am I doing here? Why did I take this on? What did I really need this for? And I didn't always have great answers. So yeah, that's something that I think when we look at anything that we do in life, that question of why am I doing this? And sometimes you know in your gut that it's important enough for you and that you really, really want to do it, that you don't maybe necessarily have all the logical answers in place, but you just know that you are there and you're doing it and you're going to get through and reap the rewards at the end. So what I wanted to share with you is that first sight of the mountain, because I really believe that that is the moment where I had amazing perspective of what's about to come. And then again, when we finished, we went to that same stop to see the mountain again. So as we had arrived in Tanzania to get to our hotel where we were going to spend the night before we started our journey, our hike up the mountain, the bus driver and our tour guide stopped at a certain point where we could get a view of the whole mountain. And we were standing there, I remember getting out of the bus and looking at this mountain and saying, we are going to climb this thing with our own 2 feet, step by step, and get right from the bottom to the absolute top, to the summit. And that for me was almost unbelievable. It was inconceivable that this is what we are going to be doing. And I'll fast forward to the end when we got to the summit and we actually did it. And came back to that very same spot to see the mountain again after we had climbed it. I had this sense of, again, this incredulous thought that I had actually got to that top of the mountain with my own 2 feet. And seeing that before and after was just an incredible experience of perspective, because we can talk about perspective, but here we had a real experience of I had just climbed this mountain. So that was incredible. That what I thought before and who I was before and what I thought after and who I was after, I have to say, I don't think it was the same woman at that same spot looking at the mountain in the before and the after. Things had definitely shifted and changed for me, and I'm going to talk about that as well. So yes, so that was our first sight of the mountain in Tanzania on the way to beginning this journey. And that's when you get to start. I'm going to take you right through to starting that hike, the nervous anticipation and excitement. We are about to embark on this journey. 18 women, strangers before we had met to do this thing together. And now we were going to embark on I think a life-changing experience that's also going to bond us in a way that, we haven't bonded with other people, and a shared experience that we don't have with other people. And actually, I'm still in touch with those women today. And it's just something that is a very, very special part of our lives that we have shared. And as I said, life on the mountain is tough. So first of all, you have to decide what you're going to take with you. And this is a really awesome principle as well, because firstly, your day pack you're carrying yourself. Thankfully, we did have porters to carry our equipment for the whole journey. And that, I guess, was a little bit of luxury because many people climb Kilimanjaro without having that support. But still, you're limited in weight and you have to think about every single thing that goes into that bag. So you really need to go down to basics. What are the very basic things that you need? What are the very things that you need every day with you, because you're going to be carrying that yourself. So you really need to think about what is the baggage that you are going to be carrying. And I remember how it was just such an equalizer because we all had the same things. You're not, this one's got more because she's more privileged, or that one's got less because you can afford. Everybody took the exact same things because that's what you need to get through this trip. Nothing more and nothing less. And it was very calculated, which also leads me to think about what you carry matters. And in life as well. So extra weight up there is not a metaphor. It's a problem because you're going to struggle to carry it. And extra weight in life, I guess, is also a problem when we're carrying some of our, limiting beliefs, carrying some possibly toxic relationship or people in our lives, and carrying our fears and carrying our limitations. We all have those, but the awareness and I guess the question of what can you leave behind, because that was the question that we really did need to be considering when we were on that mountain as well. So that was that. I will also say that I guess an uncomfortable admission on my part is that I'm used to taking on challenges and doing them, and it's absolutely fine. I don't have to be the best and the first and the fastest. But I guess that in this group, I was immediately noted as possibly one of the less strong, let's just say, members of the group, where our head guide kept a very close eye on me at all times. And not easy for me to admit. And I guess also not easy for me to know this on the mountain. And at the same time, I remember just being so grateful to have that support, that he could see I needed. He could see I was more challenged by the experience, and he could see that I needed help, and he kept an eye on me, and he gave me help when I needed. And that was really also a big lesson for me, is that, when things are hard, accept the help, ask for help, know that thinking you can do it alone is only going to hold you back. And the fact that we were a team and all together gave us all strength. And when I needed that extra help and support, a hand to hold when it was a tough climb, someone to look and say, listen, you need to eat now, because at some point I really didn't feel like eating. So my guide said, please eat something. I want to see that you're eating. Noticing that and having that as support was hugely supportive for me and really, really helped me to get through. I do want to also talk about the wall, the Barranco Wall that we got to. I think it was day 3, which is a very challenging climb. So this is the place where I guess the climb was most challenging, because we really needed to scramble using our hands and feet, put away our walking poles, our walking sticks, and really concentrate on getting through that wall. And when you stood back and you saw this wall and you saw this, it looked like a vertical, wall that stretches on forever. and thinking, I'm going to climb this now. How? How is that even going to happen? And am I going to survive this event? And here's where, they kept on reminding us, and from day one, the Swahili expression that you use on the mountain all the time is pole pole, which is slowly, slowly. It's one step at a time. You've got this big goal to climb a big mountain and get to the summit, but you are only going to do this one step at a time. And sometimes you can't even see the path ahead of you. You can only see the next step. And this was Barranco Wall. Literally, the person in front of you is taking a step, you take a step. Same thing on summit night. Blackness everywhere, no electricity on the mountain. We all had our headlights, torch headlights, and all we could see was a meter in front of us, and you just take the step after the step that the person in front of you has just taken. So Barranco Wall was scary, it was intense, and we did it. We need to adjust to the mindset of what is required to actually climb this wall, know that we can do it, know that we're supported, know that we're in a group. And I did have one scary moment where, as I put my foot down, I don't know what happened, but I somehow lost my balance. And I felt like I was literally going to go off the other end. Thankfully, the guide that was with us at that moment, holding our hands as we kind of passed through this point where there was a bit of a crevice, he saw me because it was after I'd already passed through, and somehow as I put my foot down, I'd lost my balance and looked like I was going to topple over, and he caught me just in time and brought me back. And yeah, scary moment. And I guess that is, really for me, learning that someone's got my back, someone's supporting me, someone's behind me, and I just need to lean into that and know that it will be okay. So we had some rain. The views were absolutely incredible and amazing how every day the view changed. In the beginning, there was thick foliage, beautiful foliage, because we were still at low enough altitude until we got to views that were completely different, much more rocky, much more dry, no vegetation, no animals, no birds, because the altitude was already too high. And that felt a little bit otherworldly, and experiencing that was just beautiful. And I have to say that I didn't watch any videos of other people's climbs on YouTube or anything like that. I didn't look at pictures of what the summit looked like because I really wanted to have my own experience. I wanted that summit view to be the first time I'm ever seeing it. I didn't want to have any preconceived ideas of what I was going into. And that was really incredible. So every day when this new landscape unfolded in front of us was an incredible surprise, and really something that could be savored in the moment. For me, that savoring of each moment was an experience that was amplified on Kilimanjaro. I really felt like I was very present. As hard as it was in some moments, I knew that I could also appreciate what was unfolding in front of me, and knowing that, I'm probably not really going to see anything like this ever again unless I take another trip like this. So it was a very unique, special experience that I really, really knew and understood that I wanted to savor. And I did that. I really was very present, and also with the difficulties, present with how hard it was for me and how challenging and how tired I got after every day of walking. I remember I packed a book for myself to read. I thought I'd read at night. There was no way I was going to read anything, because when you got to camp, all I wanted to do was do my quick, bath with wipes, the little bowl of water that they brought for us that we needed to wash our face, body, and brush our teeth with. And there was a system to do that. And just go to sleep because I was absolutely exhausted. So yeah, this is how it unfolded. And until we got to summit night, which is the night that you really go the whole way and you reach the peak. And what you do there is you get to camp, and you're about 4,600 meters, and you have something to eat, and then you have a rest. prepare to go out, and then you start climbing at around 11 o'clock at night. So you start the summit climb at 11 o'clock at night because it's better to go up in the night than down in the night. So if we were going to go, climb up in the day, it means we would come down in the night, which is more dangerous because it's very slippery and you really need to have good visibility. So summit night, you're walking the whole night, freezing cold temperatures. For us, it was -20 at the top. I think if I remember correctly, it was around 0 at that kind of base camp. And we had to do all the preparations, which is make sure we ate, that we conserve our energy, get some rest. There was no way I was resting. My mind was so wired that I didn't get any sleep, but I did rest. And the right clothes. Make sure that you dress for -20 degrees temperature outside. Now, I'm also a person who doesn't really do well in the cold, and that is something that I also needed to manage. But for me, summit night was the hardest night. It was a moment of breakthrough and breakdown. And I did make it, but I really didn't think that I would. And just to put it in perspective, about 65% of people who do undertake this climb, the Kilimanjaro climb, make it to the top. And and this is what it really looks like. So it's pitch black. You start walking, you walk very slowly. At that point, you have very little energy. So your breath is coming, very labored. And so you walk very, very slowly to conserve your energy and to get to the summit. And I just remember the blackness of the night, looking up and only seeing like this row of headlights that were up above me from the people who were ahead of me, and pitch black everywhere else. You just cannot see anything, and you're just walking one step after the other. It is freezing cold. I've never known such cold in my whole life. My hands and my fingers and toes were literally frozen. I could not kind of bend my fingers. They felt like they were frozen in place. And then your saboteurs or your gremlins start speaking in your mind. Are you crazy for having undertaken this? Is this really what you needed to do right now? Do you think you are going to survive? Do you think you are going to make it to the top? We also had one member in our group who didn't make it to the top. And so the way they set it up is that you climb up that summit night in single file. Weakest members at the beginning, stronger members at the back. And I was number 3. So that tells you about what my guide thought about, let's just put it, who needed more support. There were 2 women in front of me, and the woman directly in front of me, who had already been sick and vomiting for a few days, was really not doing well, and she collapsed a few times. Eventually, she had to go down. But for me, that also played on my mind because I saw her go down. I saw her collapse. I saw her not looking well, white as a sheet. And in my mind, I thought she had died. I thought this woman is not going to make it. So the voice of the gremlins and the saboteurs talking inside my head, what are you doing? This is crazy. And at the same time, you're fighting those voices to say, I can do this. I want this. This is my goal. This is what I came here for. I really, really, really want to get to the top. So all the fears, all the limiting beliefs, and then also a voice of encouragement. So here's where the voices in my head were just so poignant. And I also have to say, at that altitude, your brain does start playing tricks on you. I heard my mother's voice admonishing me. I told you not to do this. This is too dangerous. And also exhaustion. I literally was falling asleep on my feet. I had my friend behind me. She was actually further at the back. The woman who was the head of the division that we were strategizing for, she came to join me. So she moved up the row so she could be behind me. And every so often, I think I had stopped because I was falling asleep, and she'd pat me on the back, say, think of your birthday and think of your family, and giving me all this positive support and encouragement until I really, really could not go on and I could not take another step. And this was my kind of breakdown moment, because at the beginning of the summit climb, the big message that they tell you is to just keep walking until sunrise, because when the sun rises, we will be at the top and all will be well. And I really believed that this was going to be the first night in the history of the whole entire world that the sun will not rise, because it felt to me like this was taking forever. and this wasn't actually going to happen. That we will be making history that night. And at some point, I just couldn't walk anymore. At that point, the guide was near me, and he just stopped everyone. He sat me down on a big rock and stuck some chocolate into my mouth to give me some energy. I had tea in my flask, which by this point it was supposed to be warm, but at this point was not even warm. And he rubbed my back and he spoke some encouraging words into my ear. And he said to me, I know how important this is for you. I know how hard this is for you, but you can do it. Come, just a few more steps, few more steps. And I was finished. I was like, okay, this is where the journey is coming to an end for me. But at that point, something in my head switched, and maybe it was the encouragement, maybe it was a little bit of energy, maybe it was that little bit of a break. And I knew that I was going to do it. I was going to get up and take a few more steps and really get there and take myself there. And that's why I keep going back to, when I look at it now, I can say that it was who I am. At that moment, I was going to be the person who can do it and who can take another step and who can reach the top. And it was totally something in my brain that I felt that a switch had been turned on. All of a sudden, from going from, I can't do this, this isn't happening, to I can do this, and it is going to happen. And I don't know to explain it so much, but I do know that this is an internal journey. And that was the internal moment that did it for me. And then I saw the sun starting to rise, just a little sliver. And I guess that also just helped that switch go and helped me to get up. I got up off that rock and started walking again. And we walked and we got to the top. We got to the summit. And it was the most incredible experience. That feeling of absolute high. Firstly, the sun had come out, so it started warming me up a little bit more than before. And I actually started to feel a little bit better. And I think the energy of making it to the top, because it was still another couple of hours of walking, but when I got to the top, I was filled with energy all of a sudden that just took me even further. I enjoyed the view. It literally did feel like I was on top of the world with the most magnificent view that I can't even describe, and that I'd made it, that I'd actually made it. And at that point, I thought, wow, if I can do this, I can do anything, because I know what it was like to be at that breaking point. And that's when we were up there for a bit and took photos and the excitement and all of that. And then we started coming down. We came down back to Stella Point and took some photos, sat down, just rested a little bit, and then the climb down began. And here's also something that I have to say took me by surprise, because in the whole preparation of everything, it was always about getting to the top, reaching our goal of getting to the summit. But we never once, or I didn't, give any thought to what happens when you get to the top. And if you could have given me a helicopter at that time to just come pick me up and take me down, I would have grabbed it and been over delighted. But of course, there was no helicopter coming for me. And now realizing that we have to do this whole trip down. And I am going to say that it was hard. It was possibly harder than the climb up, except for summit night. But it was hard. It was physically exhausting. What you want to do is you want to get down as quickly as possible so that you can get back to altitude and oxygen as quickly as possible. So you know, the pace is fast. You're pushing yourself. Whereas on the way up, you're going intentionally slowly because you want to adjust to high altitude. So you can't do it fast because then your body just won't make it. The more you adjust, the slower you take it, the better your chances of getting to the top. So you go up. And also the format is that every day you climb up, you get to a certain altitude, but you climb back down to rest for the night. And in this way, with the up and then the down, and the up and the small down, that's how your body adjusts to altitude slowly over 5 days. And then you take a day and a half to come down because you just want to get back and give your body as much oxygen as quickly as possible. So that was the next hurdle, which was really how do we come down? How do we do it as quickly as possible? And it was tough. It was really tough. And that's where I needed help as well. I actually had a guide who took me through some areas that were so slippery and smooth that I just wasn't managing. Every step I took, I just fell down. He held my hand and we basically skied the way down and, just got to the bottom at the end. So I think that this is my story of the climb, and there are so many lessons. And as I say, I really, put it all in the book. There's 24 chapters. Each chapter has its own lesson in life and in leadership, and what you can do with it and how you can apply it to your own life and your own mountains that you're facing and climbing on a daily basis. But I do want to emphasize some of the learnings here. I'll stick to 5 main learnings that I want to share with you today. And before I do that, I really just want to say that also coming back was an adjustment. It wasn't easy because I'd come from the stillness and the slowing down and the quiet and the beauty of the mountain straight back into life, family, routine, business, everything that goes on. And it was for me, a very interesting transition back. And it took time. It took time to adjust. So here are some of the learnings that I want to share with you. And that is that the first one is it's so good to have big goals. And we need to know that the way to get to achieve our big goals is with small steps. Do it slowly, slow down, enjoy the learning, see what happens and how you adjust to the learning. And remember to take it slowly, pole, one step at a time. In order to achieve a big goal, you need to do it with small steps. The second thing is that really ask yourself, what are you carrying in life that maybe you don't need? Because the fact that we needed to be very specific about what we carry, what we put in our baggage, and getting down to basics, this is what we need for this journey. What is it that we need for the journey of life? And what are we carrying that we don't need that maybe we'll be better off, letting go of? Like I said, our limiting beliefs, our fears, people, relationships, work. Think about that. And then think about the simplicity of what's in the basic. What is in the basics? What is the noise? What is it in our life that is just creating more noise that we could do better to let go of? Okay, and then the big one is that, everything boils down to what's going on internally for us. What's in our head? What's in our body? What is our head and body telling us as we go through different things in life? And that we can really do hard things. I had this absolute sensation of euphoria when I got to the top. I really thought, if I can do this, if I got through everything that I got through over the last 5 days, then I can do anything. And that's all in our head, in our mindset, in our attitude. Pay attention to that. Pay attention to the voices in our heads. Which are the voices that are encouraging and which are the gremlins and saboteurs that keep talking to us? A big lesson was a lesson in teamwork. Being part of a team is huge. It carries you forward when times are really tough and you're struggling. Asking for help and taking help and accepting help are huge parts of that. You are not alone in this journey in any way. And if you can help yourself by noticing who's around you, asking for help, accepting help, seeing how you can help. There was all of that going on all the time. That was a big lesson for me as well. Then we had the whole lesson around identity. And I think for me, this really sums up everything that this journey was about, because I didn't know how it would shift or change. I didn't know what impact it would have on me at that level. But when I came back, it was so clear that I came back different and that something had shifted for me. And I really want to say that we often focus, and I certainly am a person who gives a lot of value to the things that I do and the achievements that I have. And that's always been part of my identity. But what I learned here is, who is the person that is going through this or that is doing all these things? Who is this person? Who does this person want to be? Who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to become?
that is something that I really felt was forged through these moments on the mountain. And they're forged through many of our life experiences and our challenges that we go. Often growth comes through challenge. Identity is forged through difficult moments. And for me, this whole experience of climbing Kilimanjaro helped to shape my identity in a way that has been very rewarding. So I said I had 5 learnings, but I'm seeing here that I have 2 more that I actually really want to talk about. And that is, one is that life is a constant upward journey with ups and downs. You don't move forward without taking a few steps back. And exactly in the mountain, just like we had to acclimatize to our altitude by going up and then coming down and then going up and coming down. This is the pattern of everything in life. You need to go up and then you'll have some downs, and then you need to go up and then it will come up. Whatever goes up comes down. Whatever comes down goes up. It's the cycle of life. Nothing is a straight line. Nothing is a constant, consistent journey according to our plan. And we need to learn and accept that and know that it's all part of the journey, because when things don't work out our way, it's really part of what have we learned and who have we become, so that we can readjust and continue our upward journey. And the last thing I want to say is really about listening to your heart, because there have been many moments in my life where I really have gone just with, what does my heart say? I could have given you a whole lot of logical reasons, and sometimes I can't. But the truth is that when I feel something in my heart and there's a knowledge in me that this is what I want to do, and I just go with it, it's always landed up with the good impact and good results for me, good benefit in my life. So I always say, if there's a dream you have, listen to your heart and go with it. Even if you can't explain it all logically exactly as maybe other people would like to hear it. If you have a dream, go for it. Listen to your heart. Do what feels right for you. Because this decision to climb Kilimanjaro was definitely a hard decision. I can tell you, even in the weeks leading up to it, I thought, oh, am I doing the right? Is this really for me? Is this something that's important for me in my life? Is it something that, if I don't do it, would anything be different? And I couldn't have known before how much it would give me, how much it would shape me, and how much it would make me different as a result of going on this journey. So really what I want to say is that, yeah, there's a lot of learnings in the story. There's more in my book. And, transformation happens in a journey. And I felt that this was a transformational journey. And I also think we can only see it after the journey has ended. We can't always foresee what transformation will come. I think often we can't see what transformation will come through a challenge or a mountain that we're climbing at the moment. But afterwards, we can often look back and say, this is how it's shaped me. This is what it did for me. And I think that that is a really worthwhile experience to have, is to be open, listen to your heart, be brave, be courageous, step out of your comfort zone, ask for help, work with a team, and really connect to your own level of identity and how you want, who is the person that you want to become when you take on a challenge, or when you've been thrust into a challenge, because those are the things that are going to get you through. Thanks for listening, and feel free to share this with anyone who you think might be interested. I'd be very happy if you enjoyed this episode. Give it a review, share it on, send me your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you. And if you're considering a climb up Mount Kilimanjaro, I hope this is helpful for you. And I will put a link to my book in the show notes so that you can go and purchase a copy for yourself. And as always, I continue the conversation in my WhatsApp groups. I will put that link in the show notes as well. Feel free to join us and let us know where this episode resonates with you.